Hi everyone, happy to be here. Thanks for the invite. My name is Orsolya Molnar. I am currently doing research in the evolutionary background of emerging infectious diseases. My research is based in the Center of Ecological Research in Budapest. And right now I'm here to give a talk about all of this at the KLI.
So, why did you choose to do what you're doing at the moment, and what are your plans for the future?
The reason I chose to do this particular research is because I used to work on sexual selection, and then I did my PhD on that, and then for the postdoc I kind of took it towards a physiological aspect, where I became interested in the parasites and parasite evolution, and that led me really fast into the emerging infectious disease or EID background. And the reason I'm doing that is because I think this is a really pressing issue currently, globally speaking. And I really think that evolution has a solution to offer for the emergence of new diseases.
So, what do we currently know about the origin and spread of the actual coronavirus?
So the coronavirus, the origin, we do not know exactly where it originated from. We do know that it has been found in multiple mammal species, including bats and civets and pangolins. We do know that it most likely switched or jumped from one of these mammal species or mammal hosts to the human host, and that's how the outbreak started happening within human communities. And we do know that the relatives of the current virus, such as the SARS, the MERS, or the common cold, all of them are able to inhabit similar mammal species. As a matter of fact, some coronaviruses have only been described from either bats or civets or camels or whatnot.
Considering that coronaviruses can technically refer to illnesses ranging from the common cold to something as serious as SARS, what makes this particular coronavirus strain significantly concerning?
So the two concerns, one of them is a medical concern. That's the no-brainer part. There is no vaccine and there is no medication available for this current strain, and that makes any disease very difficult to stop, because there's simply nothing we can do to decrease the number of patients other than hoping that their immune system works and tackles the virus. Evolutionarily speaking, the problem is the number of infected people, whether they recover or don't, because the more opportunities the virus has for replicating, the more mutations it is going to produce, and the more variants it's going to produce. And in the long run, this is going to mean that if in a year a vaccine is developed, by then the original viral strain had changed so much that the vaccine might not actually work against it. This is something that we commonly see in the case of the flu, for instance. So the seasonal flu requires having the flu shots taken every year, because the virus changes at such a rate that the previous year's flu shot will likely not work against this year's flu.
Is there a risk that this is going to turn into a global pandemic?
Yes. And I say this with adding, if it had not already, or if it has not already. The fact that there is no vaccination or medication to stop it, and the fact that the number of patients as of today is somewhere very, very close to 50,000. We have no good comprehension of where the virus is and how many people it is affecting. One of the things we can rely on in that matter is the mathematical models that model the spreading patterns of the virus. And there are some models constructed by researchers of the IDEA institution that claim that the virus can affect as much as 50,000 people per day. The difficulty in this is that the patients either produce symptoms or they don't produce symptoms. Some of them produce mild symptoms, some of them produce severe symptoms. Those with the mild symptoms not always see a healthcare provider. They don't always go into the system. Some of the patients do produce symptoms, but then they are testing negative, and then they're released from the quarantine and then later turn out to be positive for the virus. It's difficult to get a good grasp on something that spreads by sneeze, cough, touch, pretty much anything, any contact.
What is the Stockholm Paradigm, and how can it help us understand the current outbreak?
The Stockholm Paradigm is an evolutionary theory, or idea, I would say. And the basic concept of the Stockholm Paradigm is that no pathogen needs long evolutionary adaptation processes to infect a host. Infection happens as an evolutionary accident, not because the pathogen planned on infecting this host and took the time to concoct whatever strategy it has. It's just because it coincidentally possesses some sort of genetic characteristic that enables it to infect that particular host. And that means that emergence is going to be a very frequent event in ecological systems, which is exactly what we see with emerging infectious diseases. So pathogens don't infect us because they are adapted to us. Pathogens infect us because they accidentally bear characteristics that make them able to.
Are there any suggestions as to how we can prevent the emergence of disease?
Yes, luckily there is. So based on the Stockholm Paradigm and taking the framework of this, what we call evolutionary accidents waiting to happen, the Dama Protocol is a protocol that had been developed to tackle exactly this issue. The Dama stands for 4 phases of the protocol that is suggested to be done on pathogens. The D is for documenting, which means creating a database of not only the known pathogens, but those that are not yet known to cause disease, because most every pathogen started out as not causing a disease. The A is for the assessment, which means we phylogenetically assess the risk of any species acting as a human agent of disease. This is what we call the phylogenetic triage. It's a matter of looking at the relatives or the known relatives of any agent. And if the relatives are more of those who are known to cause a disease, this pathogen is going to go into the high-risk category. And if the close relatives are not known to cause disease, it's going to go into the low risk. Once we've identified the categories, we go to the 3rd phase, which is the monitoring phase. So those that we identify as high-risk pathogens or high-risk parasites should be monitored through ecological, medical, and all sorts of hands-on studies, which they probably currently are, just not in the framework of the Dama, rather in the framework of taxonomy or phylogeny or something related to that. And then the 4th is acting. So once we have identified these high-risk pathogens and monitoring has started and it has mapped their geographic distribution, it has mapped the interfaces which they operate in, that's when we hope to bring together stakeholders with scientific community and public community to come up with an action plan specialized for that particular case or those particular cases.
Why is prevention better than reaction?
For the multiple reasons, it's cheaper, which is usually what gets a lot of attention, so to say. The problem with outbreaks is that up until today, every single outbreak that happens, whether it's 2 a year or 3 a year, like Ebola sometimes produces, or 1 every 5 years, which Zika produces, or the corona, which also produces every single outbreak, hits us as a surprise. And the only thing we can do with it is damage control, which means we treat the sick, we stop shipments, we stop flights, we shut down areas, we make people stay home, we have the workforce stop doing what they're doing, and this is just immense amounts of monetary value that is being wasted or spent or not produced, for that matter, as a result of the outbreak. Prevention would be a way for us to make things predictable in terms of costs. So we're not saying prevention doesn't cost anything, but over there the costs can be calculated with, and it's not one lump sum in a very short period of time, rather a gradual kind of calculation within any budget to be spent on these preventative measures, and this just makes it more sustainable. This is just a number out there. So currently, emerging infectious diseases cost $1 billion US dollars every single year. And the worse the situation gets, the more people start living in urbanized areas, the higher the transmission rate, the less sustainable this is going to be. Which is why we're trying to push for a more prevention type of approach rather than a reaction-based approach.
So I am a high school student, and I was wondering what we can do to help.
So this Dama Protocol is going to provide for everyone and anyone to have a role in the prevention of diseases. For the high school students, I am a little older than you are. And unfortunately, the message I have for you is that whatever, we or my generation, whether it's scientists, stakeholders, any sort of experts, whatever we cook up for prevention, it's going to be you guys who have to do it. Because I won't be around that long for it to actually start taking or growing roots. So we need someone we can hand this thing down to. And so in terms of high schoolers, what I encourage you to do is always have the ability to critically think about a situation that you're exposed to. Always go and search for the causes rather than the quick fix solutions. And always be open and not be afraid to engage in a problem. It doesn't matter how scientific or difficult or out there it sounds, because you guys are all capable of understanding a concept such as the Stockholm Paradigm or the Dama, and you guys are all capable of cooking up your own way of contributing to it.